All right, episode 3, Packet and Frames. Today we are diving into the little messages, the little tiny bits of code and data that make up the internet and our wonderful world. Let's get into it. All right, task 1, what are packets and frames? Like I said, they're small pieces of data make up a larger piece of information or message. A frame is that layer 2. If you remember back in the last episode, we discussed the OSI model. And so a frame is a layer 2, the data link layer. It means it doesn't have anything like IP addresses. It's just data. That's all it is. But a packet, on the other hand, is at the. Let me make sure I get this right. Where does this? It doesn't. Does it say? I can't believe it doesn't say. Okay. Well, the packet has all that information, IP addresses. You can think of it. All right. You have a secret message that you want to get out to your friend and you're going to mail it to them. So what you can do is break down that message into like say 5 pieces. And then you'll stick each piece into an envelope and put that envelope into another one with all the delivery address and all that stuff. And then you mail out the 5 different envelopes. It gets sent to the other end. They put it back together and they got the message. Okay, moving on though. So packets is going to depend on the protocol being used. For example, the internet protocol. So the packet's going to have headers, a couple headers to will be in the packet, time to live. So essentially, like how that works, you send out these packets and they got so long to reach the destination. And at the destination point, it's sending messages back. It's like, yes, I got packet 2, I got packet 3. Hey, I didn't get packet 4, but I got packet 5. Where's packet 4? And it'll keep doing that as long as it hasn't reached the time to live. And the reason they do this is that if for whatever reason packet 4 is just not going out, it'll eventually just kill it and you won't have to worry about it. But let's get more. So that's just a base level overview. Checksum. That's essentially it's a hash to make sure that the data wasn't messed with during transmission. And of course, you got the source address and the destination address. So let's answer some questions. Oh, we gotta join the. I forgot step 1. Join the room. Okay. Piece of data when it does have IP addressing is a packet. Survey says. Whoop whoop. Got it right. All right. And then this is frame. Ta-da. Oh, we're diving down, getting into it. TCP/IP, the three-way handshake. Huh. So on the TCP/IP protocol, it uses 4 layers: application, transport, internet, and network interface. And it uses a process known as encapsulation, where it surrounds. It's kind of like the force, surrounds us, flows through us. No, I digress. The defining feature of TCP, it is connection based, which means that it must establish a connection between both the client and the device acting as a server before data is sent. Whereas other protocols may just broadcast it out. And whoever's listening can pick it up, which is not very secure. Okay. Advantages of TCP, it guarantees the integrity of data. It's capable of synchronizing two devices to prevent each other from being flooded with data in the wrong order. Performs a lot more processes for reliability. Disadvantages, it requires a reliable connection between two devices. If one small chunk of data is not received, then the entire chunk of data cannot be used and must be reset. Slow connection can cause bottlenecks, and it's significantly slower than UDP. Okay, so again, more bits on the header. We got source port, destination port, source IP, destination IP. So honestly, your computer has more than one port. Talking about the virtual ports, not the actual physical ports. So we got to know which one it's supposed to go to. Sequence number, acknowledgement number, checksum. The data, all right, the frame is right in here. It has headers where this header is where the data. Okay, okay, yeah. And the flag. All right. So the three-way handshake is the term given for the process used to establish a connection between two devices. So I have my computer here, or let's just follow the example here. Alice is going to wants to talk to Bob's computer. So this first step is going to send a SYN message, which is the initial packet sent by a client during the handshake. And then this packet, the SYN ACK packet, is sent by the server to acknowledge the synchronization intent from the client. And then the client, in this case Alice, sends an ACK packet, an acknowledgement packet. So hey, yes, we're connected. And then it starts to send data via the data message. And then the fin or finish, this packet is used to cleanly or properly close the connection after it's been complete. And then at any time during this, when there's an error, something happens, we can send a reset message. It'll end all communication, and that's just it's gonna be dropped. Um, awesome. That's pretty interesting. What's cool is like this. I mean, all right, old man moment number one here. I remember back in the late '80s, after we had gotten our first personal computer, IBM PC Junior, I believe it was. I think we also had a Tandy 1000 or whatever. We were never really got into the Macintosh world, the Apple Macintosh. But anyways, back in those days before broadband and DSL and cable and now fiber that's so prevalent in the homes, essentially you had to have a phone line, and if you didn't have two phone lines, it was the quite the comedic time to get your time on the computer. And Hopefully, no one wants to make a phone call because you've all heard the sounds. Sorry, that's the best I can do. But that is the in those days it wasn't a digital connection, but it was a analog connection. Those were the analog sounds that it made to send those messages and to sync up. And the reason it played that on the computer speaker, and by a speaker I mean there's like a little, I don't know, like about this size little speaker that was on the inside of your box, and it just played those sounds. And essentially, it did that to let you know that, hey, yes, we're connecting, but it was, quite the loud noise. And later on, they got it to where you could either turn it down or turn it off. And but if you didn't hear it, you weren't sure, until data started coming through if you were connected or not. And then, there was the slow speed of the first modems. I think ours was a 9600 baud, which is 9.6K per second compared to the 6 billion. So bits per second, like, or 1 billion a gigabit per second. We're on several magnitudes of order of difference. And that's good because this picture right here at 96 K per second would probably take an hour to download, if not longer. And I mean, the internet just wouldn't work, at least not as we knew today. I mean, it was essentially a text only uh, internet because no one wanted to take up the bandwidth to send pictures. Okay, so remember that we have the sequence number, and so due to routing and various things with the internet, the receiving computer may not get them all in order, but generally they'll break up the complete data into smaller sections, and those small sections are broken up into frames. And so you'll have a series of frames, and if it doesn't get one out of that series, it'll just send out the whole series again. And but as soon as the computer the knows that you've gotten all of the data, it's going to close the connection. And it does that as soon as possible because, well, if you have an open connection, that's a resource that's being used, and if it's not transmitting, what's the point of having it open? So, for example, you could have like a web server that can handle, say, 10 connections at the same time, 10 requests from various different clients. And so they'll have those 10 connections. So it's very important to close them because obviously you want to handle more than 10 users. But, if you can send out the data real quick and then close it, you won't have any noticeable delays. I read somewhere that the average internet user, browsing the internet, if the doesn't notice a change on the web page, like after a click within like 3 seconds, they'll just switch to another page. They'll think something's wrong or whatever. And so that's kind of the timing that you have to send the request, grab the data, and send it back. All right. So, what is the header in a TCP packet that ensures the integrity of the data? Okay. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's the checksum, and that's the value that gives TCP integrity. So essentially, there's a mathematical calculation that determines the hash or the checksum, and it's done on the data. And so the sender sends the checksum because that's the calculation it got, and then part of the protocol is that the computer on the other end has to know the same mathematical function to determine the checksum. So it performs the same math, like the same equation, same formula on the data, and if the answer is different from the checksum that was given in the header, they know that that data has been corrupted or it's been tampered with. Because don't forget about man in the middle attacks, but that's probably a whole nother episode long down the list. All right, so let's go answer this checksum. Survey says, I got it right. Provide the order of a normal three-way handshake with each steps. So that's this part up back up here. Uh, so we got this SYN is first. No, don't. Dang it. They want us to type the commas even though it's already there. That's all right. Then we got SYN-ACK. And then the last one's ACK. I just straight ACK, yes. So it kind of goes in order. You got the first one is SYN, and then the second one combines the two of them, SYN-ACK, and then the last one's ACK. So it's kind of like a mirror. It's a good way to remember. All right. Task 3, practical. Oh boy. Help Alice and Bob communicate by reassembling the TCP handshake in the correct order in the static lab attached to this task. All right. Okay, so we got SYN. Can you hear me, Bob? SYN-ACK. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, great. Let's send some data. Oh, I hear you. And then, wow, that went a lot better than I thought I was going to do. THM, bracket, TCP, chatter. Survey says, yay, I got it right. Moving on. Now we're going to UDP/IP, the user datagram protocol. It's a stateless protocol, which that means it doesn't require a constant connection between the two devices. So there's no three-way handshake, there's no SYN, there's no ACK, no SYN-ACK, none of that. Okay. So let's see. Advantages. UDP is much faster than TCP. UDP leaves the application, the user software, to decide if there's any control over how quickly packets are sent. UDP does not reserve a continuous connection on a device as TCP does. Okay, cool. Disadvantages. It don't care if you got the message. It's your own tough fault. Man, that's hard love right there. It's quite flexible. Software developers, I think that's probably why it's used in games. Because software developers, we want flexibility, if nothing at all. And so if you have a unstable, like getting back to the video games, multiplayer online, you're trying to play Call of Duty with people that have 1 gigabit fiber connections, and you're dealing with a 10 megabit DSL connection, and your experience is not going to be as good as theirs because they got a more stable connection with a faster bandwidth. However, we do have some similarities in the packets. Again, there's the time to live, the source address, destination address, source port, destination port, and then the data. So, how it works in the real world. Bob needs something from Alice's web server, sends a request. It's like, hey, I need that. And Alice is going to be like, all right, you got this, and this. And so you kind of just get flooded with data. But eventually you get everything you were looking for. So that's great. All right, let's answer some questions. UDP, user datagram protocol. Oh, you guys did not see that. Shh. Close that so we don't get any more interruptions. All right. What type of it's a stateless connection? Yay! What protocol would you use to transfer file? TCP. Actually, FTP, but hey, out of those two, I would use TCP. And I'm sure TCP is in the underlying part of FTP. Video call would use UDP. All right. Ports 101, a practical. Okay. If you think about it, a port is just like a harbor with ships. You got ships coming in, delivering stuff, and then you got ships going out, taking things out to a different port somewhere in the vast ocean. That's how you can think of a port. However, certain port numbers are reserved for specific protocols. FTP, File Transfer Protocol, is 21. Secure Shell is 22. HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, is port 80. Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure is 443. Server Message Block, SMB, 445. Remote Desktop Protocol, 3389. All right. Those are some of just a few of the reserved ports. There's a table of the 1,024 common ports listed for more information. I'm not going to get into that in this video. It's out there on the web. If you want more information, go ahead and you can look for it. Okay. We're going to open the site attached to this task and connect to port. Make it easy. So we're going to go 8.8.8.8 ports 1234. Connect. Connection received. THM. You connected to a port. Yay. All right. Awesome. Well, that is in a flash, packets and frames. I hope you learned a lot. I hope this is not only educational but fun. I enjoy putting these out here. Any comments, any suggestions for me, leave them down below. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to hit the bell icon. All right, talk to y'all later. See ya.